Welcome back. This time we're talking about Moana, the latest animated film from Disney. And I have to say, the studio has really been on a strong streak ever since Tangled, giving us such films as Frozen, Big Hero 6, Wreck-It Ralph, and Zootopia. And over that time, they've pretty much switched places with Pixar as the flagship animation studio. Because let's be honest, Pixar has not been its best with the exception of Inside Out for quite a while. Now, as far as Moana goes, one of the first things I thought about upon leaving was that it really had kind of that 90s Disney feel. And that's not really a mistake, because it was directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, who gave us such films as Hercules, The Little Mermaid, and Aladdin. Now, I'm probably going to be on the minority in saying this, but compared to Disney's other recent efforts, as well as the other works from Clements and Musker, Moana just didn't connect to me on a story level as much as either of those groups of films. And that's due to what for me was a very slow first act combined with a lack of a solid villain. Now, that's not to say that Moana is not a good film. I really think it's a very well made film, very enjoyable film, and a good film. It's just not a great film when compared to those other films that have come out before it. And it might not be fair to Moana, but when you're in that class, I'm going to judge you within that class. Now, as far as the story goes, Moana is set amongst the Polynesian islands. And we learn in the opening prologue that 1,000 years ago, the demigod Maui, voiced by Dwayne Johnson, stole the heart of Te Fiti, who is an island goddess that created all of the islands of Polynesia. And by doing so, he unleashed this curse that's slowly spreading across the islands. And also awoke this lava demon named Taka, who battles him, and during this battle he loses his magical fish hook and ends up trapped on this deserted island. Jumping back to present day, we meet a young girl named Moana, played by newcomer Auli'i Cravalho, who is the daughter of the village chief, and her people have been living on this particular island for generations. But as she finds out, that wasn't always the case. They used to be wayfarers traveling from island to island, but at some point in time, her group of people elected to stay on this particular island and take advantage of that safety and avoid the ocean. As for Moana, she has always throughout her life felt this call back to the ocean, and it's something that her father has done his best to kind of stamp out, because she is going to be the next village chief. When the curse unleashed by Maui finally arrives on their island, however, she sets out to find Maui so they can return the heart and fix the damage that he caused. Now, as I said, the first act for me was very slow, and that's because it's pretty much entirely set on her island. She wants to leave, her parents want her to stay, her village wants her to stay, but we know she's got to leave, and until she leaves, the story really can't get going. So it just feels like we're kind of spinning in place for so long. And it doesn't help that the opening song is probably the weakest of all of the songs. The songs are actually quite good. They're co-written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who actually started on this film before Hamilton ever made its debut on Broadway. Once the story gets going, the film does pick up. There's a lot of good chemistry between Maui and Moana. There's a lot of fun. It's sort of an antagonistic, I wouldn't even say friendship, camaraderie. They have similar goals. They don't particularly like each other, and that creates some good dynamics, some good comedy. Where the rest of the film falters is that we really don't have a central villain. We're essentially trying to fix Maui's mistake. So instead of a villain, we have a series of obstacles put in our hero's path, and each one is entertaining in its own way, but there's nothing really tying that together. What we end up with is the majority of the conflict is internal, with our two characters both battling their own demons over actions that they have already taken or actions they're expected to take. And there's a lot of films that works out really great, but when you're dealing with sort of this epic quest type story, it does help to have a villain. I can compare this sort of to Brave, where that was another movie that had this sort of quest aspect to it, but there was no villain, and the movie really just could never make up for that. Now, I will say this is much better than Brave. Brave was not a film that I liked much at all. But that being said, it's a good movie. It's just not a great movie. I don't think it's as good as The Little Mermaid or Aladdin, or pretty much most of the previous 5 or 6 Disney films. It's a good film. It's definitely going to entertain kids. I think it's going to entertain a lot of adults. Just for me, on a story level, I just never really got into it as much as I thought I should. So if you've seen Moana, let me know what you thought of it. Let me know if you completely disagree with me or if you agree. As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.